Good morning. So this is how my mornings usually start, with a walk. So when I get home from the walk, I'll usually spend a bit of time in quiet and sometimes reading the Bible. And this is just a foundational practice for me, and it helps me to start the day the right way. And just before work starts, I'll prep my breakfast, which I've actually usually prepped most of it the night before. I just like to add a few bits of fruit, nuts and seeds, and then of course the essential coffee. So I tend to bring my breakfast up with me to start the working day at about 8:30. That's usually when we start work, and I'll generally just eat my breakfast while I check some emails and sort of catch up on the day and make a bit of a plan of what I'm going to be doing that day. I do this because I like to have a bit of a gap between waking up and eating my food, and in particular I like to have at least an hour and a half to 2 hours between waking up and having my first sip of coffee. So I just thought I'd give a little bit of a rundown of what my morning looks like, as you kind of saw it in more of my cinematic attempts to document what I do. But effectively what I do is I wake up about 6:30 in the morning, which these days is sadly very, very dark. And I wake up that early because it gives me time to walk the dog, give me time to do a quiet time, and then obviously make breakfast as you saw. And then usually, like you saw, I'd come to my desk about 8:30 and eat breakfast. So that's usually how my day starts. And then the rest of the morning, we'll get into a little bit of a dilemma that I have with the kitchen. Let me tell you about that now. The kitchen can be a tempting place to go when you're working from home all the time. You might be sitting there trying to focus on your emails when suddenly that bag of chocolate in the cupboard comes to mind. And often, no matter how good my self-control might be, it often gets the best of me. Come with me. Favourite place. Sometimes I might even end up visiting the kitchen 4, 5, 6 times before lunch. Not ideal. When lunchtime does come around, I get very excited, as I can often cook something nice for myself. You've got carrot and coriander soup with fried eggs on some nice toast and a bit of a salad, because why not? Okay, so you can probably tell that I really, really like food. And food is a great thing, but when you're working from home all the time, it can be a real temptation to come downstairs and eat as much food as you possibly can to distract yourself, as you probably just saw from that little montage. Some of the things that I found helpful to kind of avoid just constantly eating is having a bit of a food routine, so you know exactly when during the day you're gonna have breakfast, lunch and dinner, and also maybe even you have a bit of a routine of when you have what type of snack. Now that's very sort of well planned, and most people probably won't want to do that. You can probably tell I'm a project manager. But sometimes having a real structure as to when you're going to eat certain things can be helpful. Another thing that's helpful is something that Matt Diavella talks about in terms of habits, which is, while self-control is great, if you have got unhealthy things in the cupboard that you probably don't want to be eating all the time, such as chocolate, and I love chocolate, then it's just generally better to just try and keep that stuff completely out of the house if you can, or at least completely out of the kitchen where you can find it. Maybe get your friend or partner to hide that stuff. But ultimately, removing it from the house entirely means you can't eat it. But instead, and don't just leave it there, instead fill your house with really yummy, healthy things like good fruit. Whatever your favourite fruit is, why not get it this week instead of that chocolate? Anyway, that's just sort of my brief summary as to kind of how I find the relationship with food, shall we say, when you're working from home. So I hope that's helpful. I need to go walk Poppy now, so I'm going to get going and do that. So Poppy requires about an hour and a half of walking every day. So we usually do about half an hour in the morning, as you saw, do about 20 minutes now at lunchtime. And then the rest we usually have to do in the evening in the darkness. Let's see if I can find Poppy. Hello. Yeah. And that's the end of my day. Thank you for watching.